think it's really important that you have to build the right culture to foster big ideas. And you have to, as a leader, remove the fear that prevents big ideas. Failure is actually a good thing because it means you tried something different and you learned from it. We say measure what you treasure, right? It's really fun to have a big idea and put it into action, but you have to measure it to ensure it's delivering against your objectives.
Today, I'm excited to sit down with my friend, Linda Bethea. Not only because she's a powerhouse in brand strategy and innovation, but because she's my friend. We go way back during our days at PepsiCo and now leading Danone North America, driving growth for brands we all know and love. What I really admire about Linda is how she blends her creativity with strategy, building brands that don't just exist, but truly lead in the market. She is committed to using her platform for sharing her journey and sharing her insights with those who are also on their journeys of exceptional big ideas. Today, we're going to be diving into our big idea framework, brand innovation and growth, and how she uses it to spark bold ideas and turn them into real impact. Hi, Linda. So good to see you. Thank you so much for joining Anatomy of a Big Idea.
I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Absolutely. Well, first, I want to just start off, and can you just walk us through a bit of your career path and how you became connected with Danone and all of the great work that you've been doing?
Sure. So we met obviously back in the day at Frito-Lay. I spent the first decade of my career at PepsiCo, which I think was a fantastic training ground as both a marketer, but also a business leader. And I had the opportunity to work on our Frito-Lay snack brands. I also worked on the Pepsi beverage side of the business, where I worked across the joint venture with Unilever on the Pepsi-Lipton partnership, which also gave me exposure to Unilever business and marketing practices. And then I led the water portfolio for Pepsi beverages at a time that water sales were outpacing carbonated soft drink sales. So a really pivotal moment in the strategy and growth of the company. And then from there, I went to what I call the fun side of beverages and worked at Diageo for a few years, managing their North American rum portfolio, of which Captain Morgan is their flagship brand. And then from there, I really started to think about my purpose in life and what really gets me out of bed in the morning. We spend so much of our time and our energy at work, and I wanted to ensure that it aligned with my personal purpose. And it was at that time that someone reached out to me about a role at Danone, which many people don't know is one of the largest B corporations in the world. And what that means is that we're committed to using business as a force for good. And our mission as a company is to deliver health through food to as many people as possible. And so that was something that really resonated with me as a marketer, but also as a mom and as a person. And so I was really excited to join Danone 5 years ago and begin this next chapter of my life.
I love that. Now, can you talk to me a little bit more about your purpose? You talked about the idea that you wanted to transition your career to have a stronger alignment with your purpose and how Danone fits with that. Can you talk a little bit more about your purpose and the connection to Danone that you spoke of earlier?
Yeah, so this is something near and dear to my heart. I obviously had fantastic experiences at both PepsiCo and Diageo, but they were both cultures in which I found it difficult for women to succeed. It's still a very traditional business culture, and it feels awful saying that in 2025, that we're still dealing with, unconscious bias in the workplace. And as a woman, something I encountered on a very regular basis. Also, there came a point in my career where I became a single mom, and that changed my priorities. It didn't mean I wanted to give any less to my career. I'm extremely passionate and motivated about what I do, but I also wanted to give that same passion and energy to raising my daughter. And so for me, coming to Danone was a place where they actually valued the whole person. And they really pride themselves on building an inclusive environment and really thinking through, when we talk about, business as a force for good, it's about delivering your economic targets, but also doing the right thing for people. And that's both the people within Danone and the people we serve. And so as an employee of Danone, I feel like I can bring my whole self to work, and I can use my position to work with my leadership team and make sure that we have the right policies and procedures in place for single working moms, for other folks that may not fit the norm of what a business leader looks like, and really set people up for success. And you'll hear me talk about that both internally, but also externally. I try to use my platform to normalize parenting in the workforce, right? Just because we're a parent doesn't mean that we can't also be a kick-ass CMO. And so that's something that really excites me, is being able to bridge those two worlds and bring them together, because I truly do think that being a mom makes me a better marketer, and being a marketer makes me a better mom.
Absolutely, Linda. I couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't agree with you more. I remember, when I had to make the decision to start my own business, to when I left Frito-Lay, I really wanted to make sure that I could build a career for myself where I could be the professional that I wanted to be while being the mom that I wanted to be and be the parent that I wanted to be, and creating a space that allowed for both to flourish, where you didn't feel like it had to be an either or. And to your point, PepsiCo is a great company, but everyone has to find that norm that makes sense for them, right? What is their normal that makes sense for them, and finding that you can be an amazing CMO, you can be an amazing leader and be an amazing mom, and those two aren't mutually exclusive, is an amazing platform. And I love the fact that you are building that platform not only for yourself, but for other women in the workplace. Another big idea you talked about to me is this notion of doing well and doing good. But what I'm hearing you also say is at Danone, you can do well by doing good, right? Your business model in of itself is doing what's right, which is, of course, both a social model, but also an economic model.
Absolutely. In fact, one of my favorite quotes is from the former CEO of Greenpeace, who said, "There are very few companies in this world that if they doubled in size would make the world a better place. And Danone is one of them." And so we really feel like we're on the forefront of delivering our mission to bring health through food to as many people as possible. And what that means is, one, we want to make sure that we're putting forth the most nutritious, delicious products across our broad portfolio of food and beverage brands, but also making them more accessible so that more people have access to those nutritious, delicious options. So making sure that they're available in a wide variety of places at a wide variety of price points, right? Health shouldn't be limited to a small segment of the population. It should be available to all.
I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, on a personal note, I'm involved with an organization where I get to lead an international team, and we're focused on food insecurity. And because there's so many people who do not have access to basic human needs of food. And it sounds as though that is the entire platform in which Danone has been established, is making sure that the world gets to eat and have access to healthy food. I love that idea.
Yes. And eat food that will also play a preventative role in their health. So, for example, we just announced a qualified health claim where across our yogurt portfolio, if you consume a certain number of servings of yogurt per week, the FDA has said it will help prevent diabetes. And that's a huge issue in our country today. And so if eating Danone yogurt can help prevent diabetes, we're helping to make the world a better place. We also have an entire infant nutrition portfolio, right? So feeding babies that are entering this world all the way through adult medical nutrition. And so it's really that kind of cradle to grave mentality and making sure we're delivering the right nutrition at the right life stage.
This is amazing. I could spend time talking about each of those ideas because they are in of themselves a big idea. Let's kind of just take a step back, because you started with Danone 5 years ago. And so, coming in as a new leader, how do you step into a new role? And when you do step into this new role and you're tasked with growing your brand, what are the first things that you look at?
Great question. So when I joined 5 years ago, I would say that the marketing was really kind of stuck in the 80s, as my boss at the time liked to call it. It was very traditional marketing, and it was very much one size fits all. We have a portfolio of over 20 different brands across food and beverage, and it should not be one size fits all. And so I really spent kind of the first 90 to 220 days just learning and listening, meeting with as many people as possible across the entire organization, not just the marketing team, but the commercial team, the R&I team, the registered dietitians and nutritionists that sit on our staff, the legal team, really hearing from everyone about what they love about Danone, what they love about our brands, and what their wishes were for the future. I then spent a really good amount of time building the right team and the right capabilities, right? We set a pretty strong vision to build Danone as a marketing powerhouse that grows category leading brands. That's ambitious. We were not there 5 years ago. And so really had to dig deep and make sure that we had the right team in place that could achieve that ambition. And so there's been a lot of change and transformation over the past few years, but I finally feel like we're in a fantastic place where we have the most amazing, diverse, talented team that can bring that vision to life.
That's fantastic. So you say you first started understanding the business and then you moved on to creating the right team. What do you look for when you're trying to build that team that can help build this ambitious goal and essentially reestablish the marketing department?
I always look for what I call the will and the skill, or the what and the how, right? It's really important, obviously, that the person has the right capabilities and experience to do the job, right? And that comes down to the job description. But a lot of people will check those boxes and still not be the right talent for the role, because from my standpoint, they have to have that will and the how to be able to accomplish it the right way. I want someone that has the passion for marketing, somebody that has passion for the categories in which our brands play and are willing to roll up their sleeves and step outside the box. The way I operate our team is, yes, we all have, our individual roles and titles, but we're one team and we operate as one team. And so I don't want my head of media only staying in his media box. He's actually been one to come up with some of our most fantastic big ideas. And he wouldn't have done that if he were just sticking to his media role. So we really try to operate as one team, which makes it critical that we have people that are passionate and super collaborative on the team.
I love that. So let's talk about the genesis of a big idea. You mentioned that, you have the right team in place. They know how to flex across the organization. That's a key part of it. But can you give an example of one of those big ideas that came out of your team, and what were some of the starting places for that idea?
I think it's really important that you have to build the right culture to foster big ideas. And I think for me, that means two things. One, you have to build a culture of creativity. And I mean creativity in both the traditional sense, but also in the non-traditional sense. I think you can foster creative, innovative thinking across any task or project. And so we build certain routines into our team to foster that culture of creativity. We have a weekly creative inspiration email that goes out, and anyone can contribute to it. It goes out on Fridays, and it's all kind of the hot creative or things that sparked big ideas during the week, or small ideas. Ideas can come from anywhere, big or small. We do monthly market tours, getting out and seeing things that are going to inspire us outside the building. That could be a traditional consumer packaged goods market tour at a store, or we go to an art museum, right? You can find inspiration in so many different places. It might be a farmer's market. It might be a pop-up happening down in Soho in New York City. We find inspiration in all sorts of places. And then on a more, bigger quarterly level, we schedule, more formal ways to drive that creativity. And I think that's really important. The second piece, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, is removing the fear that prevents big ideas. I think a lot of people are so afraid to say something different, try something new, swing for the fences. And you have to, as a leader, remove the fear, or it will never happen. We'll be stuck in the same old routine, coming up with the same type of ideas over and over again. And that may be great if those ideas are working, but at some point they'll stop working. And then where do you go? Because you reach a point where how you got here is not going to get you there. And so I think it's really important that you make people feel like it's okay to think differently, right? So building a diverse leadership team, building diversity of thought throughout the organization, and highlighting failure. Failure is actually a good thing because it means you tried something different and you learned from it. So we actually have what we call a wall of fame, which are all the successful big ideas. And then we have a wall of shame. And they're equally important because that wall of shame are some really great big ideas that failed for one reason or another. And we can learn from that and improve on it so that the next big idea is a home run.
So let me make sure I'm understanding. Not only do you celebrate your successes, but you showcase and you don't hide away from your failures.
Absolutely.
And tell me about this wall of shame. Is it a physical wall?
We do have a physical wall, but it can also just be sharing something, right? And I really started that when I joined Danone because I wanted people, one, to get to know me on a human level, right? I think oftentimes, you put a C-level title and after somebody's name, and all of a sudden it's like, ooh, they're not a real person, they're a leader. And it's like, no, I'm Linda, you can come talk to me, it's okay. And so I love to share, some of the big failures that I've had in my career. And then again, what I learned from it that's made me a better marketer and a leader. And so we share those in town halls. If it's, an actual creative example, we'll put it up on the wall. So it's, loud and proud for everyone to see.
I love that. I think to your point, we have created a culture where we're afraid that if we do and make the wrong mistake, that it is going to ultimately kill the company. But there are so many examples upon examples where you have to do the thing that may scare you in order to save the company, in order to progress the company.
Risk, right? Like it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. You can also do a lot of test and learns and pilots. And that's a great way to try something new while mitigating the risk of it harming the company.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it also just comes from a space of people don't want to be wrong, right? People are afraid of making the wrong mistake or publicizing the fact that they did something wrong. And it sounds like you're building a culture where that can be a safe space, that they're saying, I did this thing incorrectly. And there's a culture of saying, well, let's learn from that. That's okay. And I think there's so many more companies that need to do that because that is what's going to help create that space of innovation and create that innovative mindset, starting with the right team, creating a culture of creativity and celebrating and acknowledging the role that failure plays in the growth of your company.
It's that psychological safety that's key, right? Providing that safe space for people, because I think that's what truly frees their mind and enables them to think big.
What does it look like within an organization as big as Danone, right? Because while it's great to come up with these really big ideas and to have safe spaces to share those big ideas, it's still a large company that you have to, as you mentioned, mitigate risk. How does one take that idea, that inspiration point, and try to bring others along so that it can be successful in an organization as big as Danone?
We are a large matrix organization. We have a lot of processes and procedures we need to follow. So for example, we do have a creative development process that has defined phases, who are the key stakeholders, decision makers, et cetera, that we do try to follow. That being said, it's not one size fits all. And so I'll give a couple examples. So one of my favorite big ideas over the past few years was on our Stoke cold brew coffee brand. So Stoke is a small but very fast growing brand in the cold brew coffee space. But as one of the smaller brands in our portfolio, it didn't have the biggest budget. So it didn't have a traditional, creative agency of record. It didn't have a huge team working on it, but we knew it had so much potential. And so we actually pulled together a small group from the brand team along with our internal creative team to talk about, okay, how can we make a huge splash with this brand in a non-traditional way? Because the core positioning of the brand is all about bold flavor and bold moves. And so what could be a bold move that would put this brand on the map in terms of brand awareness and insert the brand into culture? And out of that brainstorm came the idea, a bold move, if I do say so myself, to sponsor a soccer team in a country where the product isn't even sold. So that was essentially the pitch to our then CEO. We are going to sponsor a soccer team in a country where we don't sell Stoke. What do you think? And lo and behold, 2.5 years later, it's been one of our most successful marketing programs ever. Stoke is now an official sponsor of Wrexham, which, as I think everybody now knows, is the Wales football team purchased by Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, which now has its own docuseries on Netflix, has US matches where they're showcasing the talent versus our own US soccer players, and it's just blown up. So it's been something that was really grounded in the brand positioning and the brand personality that has turned into a growth engine for the brand.
Can you talk a little bit about what it took to inspire other people to say, hey, we're going to sponsor, a soccer team where the brand isn't? What is the right approach to getting people to get just as excited about that big idea as you are?
I think the formula for success is twofold. One, to your point, you have to get people just as excited as you are. So you have to paint a picture of what success could look like. And so we literally wrote the headlines that we would expect to see in the newspapers, in the trade publications, in People magazine, if we did this well, along with an actual video that brought to life what success could look like for this brand. And then we coupled that really exciting internal marketing and PR with the numbers, right? It was actually a really smart financial deal because we wrapped up everything in the actual sponsorship of the Stoke Kai race. And that included everything from signage to content to access to Ryan Reynolds' social handles. And so it was a really smart investment. We were really thinking in a 360 way of how to leverage one strategic partnership across everything we did.
I am getting goosebumps for this idea because what I love about it is a lot of times people think small brand, small budget, small ideas, right? And what I love about what you're saying is, no, every brand, no matter how small their budget, has the right to execute a big idea. You just have to find the one that's really grounded in your positioning and what you feel like you can own and if you're going to do it, make sure it works and paint the picture of what success looks like. That to me is so inspiring because I think that is a paradigm shift for a lot of people. Again, they think small budget, small brands, just do what you can. Let's continue to support how we can. But you're saying take that small budget and make a big splash. Even if it's one specific idea, that one specific idea can do a lot for the brand.
It's almost like that, if you see it, you can be it. If you build it, they will come kind of mentality. And so we took a small brand, we had a big idea, we leveraged the partnership to the max, optimized every opportunity, and we showed up like a huge brand. This is actually now coming off the second year in a row that Stoke Cold Brew Coffee showed up on the Super Bowl. Right? And for a brand that size to be on that stage and in the leagues with, your traditional Super Bowl advertisers is pretty amazing. And we were able then to attract really amazing talent that wanted to work with us on those marketing campaigns. So this year we had Channing Tatum star in our Super Bowl ad, and last year Sir Anthony Hopkins. And that was literally, Ryan Reynolds casting out a net and saying, hey, we have this amazing cold brew coffee brand called Stoke that we're working with. Do you want to be part of this creative journey?
So you heard it, small brands, right here. Just because you're a small brand, you make sure you show up like a big brand. I think that's major. Now, let's talk a little bit about the process of executing, a big idea, right? And so there's some really exciting things that get people excited, but there's some challenges. Every big idea faces some type of resistance at some point. Can you share a moment when you may have hit a major roadblock, either for this idea or another idea that you've been working on within your organization? And how did you push it through?
Yeah, I'll share a different example just to give some other brands some love.
Yes.
So we have a yogurt brand called Oikos, which is a leader in high protein yogurt. And it is a gem of a brand in our portfolio because it is absolutely consistent in everything from brand purpose to positioning to distinctive brand assets to the way it shows up on packaging, on shelf, all the way through its creative assets. And as a result, the brand has been growing high double digits year over year. And so as you reach that growth threshold, you start to say, okay, what's next? What we have is working. We have this amazing campaign platform called Stronger Makes Everything Better. We've had a partnership with the NFL. We've been featuring athletes prominently in our executions creatively over the past few years. We've developed an even broader portfolio of protein-led yogurts and drinks. Everything's working. So why would you mess with it? But people get restless. And I think internally we get, a little more restless than the consumer. And there's also pressure from leadership. How are you going to continue this growth? And ideas come down from everywhere. Well, have you thought about doing this with your brand? Oh, well, I think you really need to take the creative in this direction. And so we face those questions every day, all the way up to our global CEO. And so I think what really helps in the process is staying true to your core and having really, really solid brand foundations. For me, that's where everything starts. You have to start with that consumer insight, be really clear on who you're targeting and what's the problem you're trying to solve, and then build a really crystal clear brand purpose, brand positioning, brand personality, brand tonality with distinctive brand assets that are your guideposts on this journey. Not that you can't veer a little to the left or a little to the right, as you may need to do to evolve and capture a different consumer target or consumer occasion, but it gives you that roadmap that allows you to drown out the noise and make sure you're doing the right thing for the brand and for the consumer.
Absolutely. And you have to anchor it in the foundation of the business and of the brand, right? You have to make sure, just as your other example, and this example is another great one, understand what that positioning is. And more importantly, understand and have that relationship with your customer, your consumer. And I want to actually go back to your examples from earlier when you were talking about how you encourage your employees to spend time out and to be immersed with their customers, to actually understand it. You can go to an ethnography, there's so many ways that you can build an intimate understanding with your clients, with your customers, that will allow for you to be able to have that intimate understanding of what they need, what problem they're trying to solve, and how they can be best suited to support them in their consumer journey and that customer journey.
I think that's absolutely critical. And I think, unfortunately, as people move up in their careers and assume positions of leadership, they become much further removed from the consumer. And so at Danone, we have a program called Consumer Love, which is all about putting people first. No matter your role or level in the organization, you will commit to interacting with our consumers on a regular basis. And we have digital platforms set up to enable people to do that. We also have an amazing consumer connections team on the front line every day, fielding calls, emails, social media posts from our consumers. And it really puts things in perspective, helps you understand who we're here to serve and what their needs are so that we can do a better job at innovation and marketing.
sometimes in innovation, people fall in love with the idea, right? They fall in love with, this is this really amazing idea. I really want us to move forward with it. But what you really have to fall in love with is the problem that your idea is trying to solve. And
the idea won't work if it's not solving an actual consumer need.
Absolutely. And that's what you should fall in love with, right? Having that understanding of what your consumer needs and making sure that you are obsessed with supporting that need and creating the solution that will fall in place to support that need. That it sounds like you have to establish the right infrastructure to create a strong understanding of your consumer insights. How do you really translate those consumer insights and the data to craft your strategies to make sure that you're growing your brands and to make sure that they're standing out?
I mean, in today's day and age, there's no lack of data, right? You have financial data, quantitative data, social sentiment. I mean, it's, data overload. And so I think it's really critical to, again, have the right talent, experience, and capabilities that can parse through the data and translate data into insights. What are the actionable insights that we can leverage in our day-to-day? And I think to your point around consumer needs, there's going to be obviously the really critical consumer needs around health and wellness, which is ultimately why Danone exists as a company, but it doesn't always have to be that serious or that purposeful. There can be a consumer need around, I need to be entertained while enjoying my coffee in the morning, right? That is a real consumer need, and that's actually one that our International Delight brand has focused on solving, right? Our International Delight brand is one of the most fun brands in the portfolio. It is anchored on flavor. Our International Delight consumers, we lovingly call them Creamer Nation, cannot drink their coffee without International Delight. They actually do not like the taste of plain coffee. They will not drink it. And so for them, it's almost like they're drinking International Delight with a side of coffee. And so as we were spending more time with them and getting to know them, they were looking for those moments of levity and, fun, flavorful moments in their day. And we landed on this data point that showed that they were actually watching more reality TV than other consumers. And so that was something that, maybe a traditional insights person would gloss over. Well, that's not relevant to a coffee creamer brand. But yes, it is, because we had this amazing junior person on the team that pounced on that and said, hey, what if we created a reality TV parody called Creme House, where each of the characters was the personification of one of our flavors, with all the drama that reality TV is known for brought to life through that Creme House. And we're now actually on season 5 of Creme House on TikTok. So you can get your reality TV fix while enjoying your International Delight creamer and see what your favorite creamer flavors are up to.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to check that out. That sounds like so much fun. But
it also shows,
I can only imagine, because you are not only connected to the consumer insight, but you're connected to the brand personality, right?
And then we took it one step further after we launched that successfully. And again, this goes back to that one team mentality. So it was a partnership between our social team and our brand team that brought Creme House to life. Then our licensing team said, hey, what if we capitalized on the success and the passion for these characters, and we actually created creamer costumes for Halloween? And so we did. So this past year, you could dress up as your favorite Creme House character for Halloween.
That to me also allows for like brand loyalty, right? Brand love, right? Because if you can get your consumers to dress up like their favorite
International Delight French Vanilla for Halloween.
Right, exactly. That is the ultimate in brand love, right? You're taking a big idea and you're connecting it to creating a relationship with a more intimate relationship with your consumers. Like, that's huge. And
it's great financially for business too. You're driving revenue beyond the bottle and you're driving additional brand impressions, right? That person's likely going to a Halloween party and it's going to be seen by that many more people.
Yes, talk about earned media, right? Like you have.
Exactly.
And you have, and also talk about, user generated content. Like they're literally creating moment that
Guarantee
is
that everyone that bought a costume did some type of TikTok video, Instagram reel.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, that's I love that one. Thank you for sharing that. And this is why I love big ideas, because they can come from anywhere. It really is taking different constructs and marrying them, right? Taking coffee and reality TV and Halloween costumes. Who would think that those specific ideas will come together into something that not only works, drives brand love, but also grows your business? And to me, that is makes a big idea a big idea.
Yes. And I think that's absolutely key is you have to, we at Danone, we say measure what you treasure, right? It's
Right.
really fun to have a big idea and put it into action, but you have to measure it to ensure it's delivering against your objectives. And so being crystal clear on what your KPIs are for each execution is really important. So for example, for Creme House, we really wanted to focus on recruiting a younger consumer into the brand and increasing our following on key social channels. And so those were the KPIs that we looked at associated with that tactic.
It sounds like it's so much fun to work on your team. Just the ideas of being able to, that good ideas can come from anywhere, right? And not only are they heard, but that junior person on your team now knows that they came up with an idea that is making a true impact, not only for their consumer, but for the business. Like you created a culture that allows for that to happen. And I think that needs to be commended and really just put out as not just a best practice, but the practice that is critical to drive business innovation and growth, right?
Absolutely. Great ideas can come from anywhere as long as you have the passion and the insights to put it into action and drive results.
I absolutely love that. Linda, I can go on, and I'm so tempted. I want to talk about Activa. I want to talk about so many things. I hope that this could be part one of a continued conversation, that we can continue to talk about how do we get other people excited about big ideas, how we can help eliminate the fear of big ideas, and how we can create the infrastructure to support big ideas. Because that's one of the things I do see a lot with my clients is they want to do the big ideas, but wanting to make sure that they have what I call the enablers of growth, right? The enablers, which is the infrastructure, the culture, the process, really making sure that those fundamental things are in place so that those big ideas can be executed and can thrive. And there's so many different things.
Yeah, I would love to continue the conversation.
Thank you so much, Linda. I am so excited. What are you excited about next? You talked about the work for Activia, but what are all some of the things that you're excited about next and some of the big ideas that's on the horizon for you?
I'm really excited to show the power of creativity as a growth lever. We're obviously operating in a very volatile environment right now as a consumer packaged goods business. And so continuing to stay focused on core growth levers and leveraging creativity as a growth driver and force for good.
That's huge. There's so much you can do with that. There's so much you can do with that. I'm excited for you. Thank you again for joining, and I look forward to part two.
Thanks, Toria.